Hello, this is Mr. Wyrick, and I'm here today to talk to you about the Chapter 4 study guide and review. If you want to make sure that you get everything right, start off on page 310 and take a look at those vocabulary words. This is what we're going to do leading into the exam, leading into the Chapter 4 test. So start off, make sure you have those vocabulary words down, make sure you understand what they mean, and then there's going to be the vocabulary check there. Then lesson by lesson, what we're talking about here, the first one is classifying triangles. So if you classify by angles, you have an acute triangle, you have an obtuse triangle, you have a right triangle. If you're classifying by sides, you either have an equilateral or a scalene triangle or an isosceles triangle. Remember that all equilateral triangles are also classified as isosceles because they have at least two sides congruent. On lesson 4.2, we were looking at angles of triangles. So you just have to kind of remember that they all add up to 180, and that's going to be most of what this one is about. Okay. Moving on from there, lesson 4.3, congruent triangles is where we got the CPCTC. They're going to bring in the polygons again, so it's corresponding parts of congruent polygons are congruent, but you can remember CPCTC, it's always the triangles here. Proving triangles congruent was lesson 4.4 and 4.5. So lesson 4.4 was side-side-side congruency. If you can prove that all three sides are the same, then it's most definitely a congruent triangle. And then the SAS, remember it's one side, another side, and the angle in between them. It has to be that way for side, angle, side. If it's a different angle, it's not going to work. There are no donkeys in geometry. We can't have that kind of congruency. On 4.5, it was the other part of that. It was angle side angle and angle angle side. So we have the angle and then the side here and then another angle. So it's the side in between the angles for angle side angle. But we actually can have an angle here, and the side over here to where it's angle angle side congruency. One of the last things we talked about, 4.6, lesson 4.6, the isosceles and the equilateral triangles. Remember, if it's equilateral, it's also equiangular. So if it's 60 degrees all the way around, then you're going to be dealing with equal sides. All the sides are going to match up. When it's isosceles, whatever angles match, if it's the two at the bottom or if it's one at the top and one of the bottom ones, whatever two angles match from that triangle, the sides opposite those angles are going to be the ones that match up measure-wise. So be aware of that. And then the equilateral triangles, just remember, if it's equilateral, it's equiangular. If it's equiangular, it's also equilateral. 4.7, the congruence transformations. We were doing the slide or translation. We were doing the flip, which is a reflection. And then we were doing the turn, the rotation around a specific point. Remember, with any of those, it has to stay congruent. You're probably going to be dealing with the Cartesian coordinates quite a bit on that one. And then you'll have to maybe calculate distance. Don't forget the distance formula, the Pythagorean theorem, work together with those. 4.8, lesson 4.8, the last lesson from chapter 4, triangles and coordinate proof. Remember, it has to do with from this point to this point is this far, from this point to this point to this point, and what kind of triangle do we have. So you can find those distances, figure out if it's scalene, if it's equilateral. You know, it kind of goes back to classifying the triangles by what you're finding. Okay. If there are any other questions on this, if there was some lesson from chapter 4 that you didn't understand, make sure you get in, make sure you come to tutorials, make sure you ask questions during class, whatever it is, so I can get you help so that we figure out before the test is over that you didn't know something from chapter 4. Good luck, and we'll see you then.